this is really cool. We can now combine Claude Code with Google Stitch to design and build beautiful UIs for our web applications. These could include simple websites all the way to complex dashboards. And the best part is that this is all very easy to set up, and Google Stitch is actually free. So in this video, I'll show you how to get started with Google Stitch, and then I'll show you how to set up Claude Code to do everything for you on Stitch, from creating projects to generating designs, to copying down the design system, and finally, building a beautiful web app for you. So what is Google Stitch then, and why should you care? Stitch is a UI design tool from Google that uses AI to generate beautiful user interface designs for your mobile applications or web apps. And it's really easy to use as well. You simply tell it whether you're designing a mobile app or a web app. You can also provide reference images or point it to an existing URL if you're planning to redesign a site. If you want, you can also select from a few predefined color schemes. You can select a model. And by the way, this is why this tool is so popular. You've probably realized that tools like OpenAI and Claude Code aren't really good at generating beautiful UIs. And up until now, we've all kind of leaned into using the Gemini models to create the UIs for us. Or we would generate a mockup using something like Nano Banana and then create a design system from that. Now, these models are simply baked into this design tool. So let's select the model and let's click on Generate. And just for fun, if you just want to have a conversation with the agent, you can do that as well. But I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'll just pass my prompt and click on Send. And the first thing Gemini will do is create the design system. This design system will set the theme and the tone of our application. So here we can see the primary colors, the secondary colors, and everything related to typography, corner rounding, etc. And this is such a cool feature. It's now generating the screens in real time. For this demo, I'm generating a single screen, but of course you can ask it to add more pages as well, and it will generate all of those as we go along. So for example, let's also say, please also create the About page. And now Gemini created this second page as well. And as you can see, everything is indeed following this design system. Of course, there's a lot more you can do with Stitch, like we can click on any page and we can ask for any edits to be made. We can generate multiple variations of the design. We can generate the page completely. And we can also set the preview mode. So if we just wanted to see the mobile version of the design, that's what it would look like, or the desktop version, etc. We can also click on Instant Prototype, and this will generate a version of this UI that we can actually test out. So we can navigate it like any other web page to see what the animations are like and whether we actually like this design. So as you can see, Stitch really is impressive. But the question is, why would we want to use it? After all, isn't that what the front-end design skill is about? So yes, you can definitely assign skills to your coding agents, but at the end of the day, you don't really have that finely tuned control over the design system and what it's going to look like, unless you keep iterating with the agent to finally land on a design that you like. Secondly, using the skill is slow. You'll typically install the design skill into your project folder, and you would then ask Claude to come up with some kind of design for you. But then Claude takes a lot of time to explore the codebase and to edit all of the components and the UI, and it will take you a lot of time to kind of reiterate on those designs. And of course, if you don't like the design, you have to back out everything you did on the codebase. Long story short, you're touching code. The idea with using something like Stitch is that it's really fast at generating these designs, and we can get a feel for what the app is actually going to look like before we change our code at all. So using this tool, we can definitely quickly iterate on the designs, and once we're ready, pull it into the actual code base. And I will take you through my entire workflow in this video. And by the way, this is actually a really common convention. If you've been in software development for some time, you would know that it's a really common convention to first design your applications using something like Figma, so you can rapidly prototype what the UI would look like before committing to a design and building a solution around it. So starting with a design system like this is really the right way to go about it. Secondly, you might be wondering, well, why don't you just use Figma, as they also have AI capabilities now. Again, Stitch is completely free, and Figma is not. Right, so let's see how we can integrate Claude Code with Stitch, and it's really, really cool. From the Stitch website, go to the documentation. Then if we go to the MCP guide, we can go to Setup and Authentication. And here we can get the setup instructions for including the Stitch MCP server in Claude Code. Now, there are two different authentication systems that you can go with. We can either use an API key or an OAuth token. The easiest solution is to go with the API key. So we will create the key in a second, but the first thing we're interested in is this MCP client setup section over here. This will give us the exact command to run to install this MCP server on all of these different tools. So that's Gemini CLI, Cursor, Anti-Gravity, VS Code, and of course, Claude Code. Since I'm using Claude Code, I'm simply going to copy this command. Then in my project folder, let's paste in that command. And I'm going to change one thing. I'm going to change the scope from user to project. Now, if you want this MCP server to apply to all of your projects, you can install it at user level. But for demo purposes, I'm going to store it in project. Cool, so this created this mcp.json file with the following configuration. We now have the Stitch MCP server, and the only thing we have to change here is the API key. So I do have to replace this with my actual API key. Now, in order to get your API key, simply go back to Stitch, go to Stitch Settings, go to this API key section and create a new key. Then copy your key and then add it in between these double quotes. You can then save that mcp.json file. So now Claude should actually be hooked up to Stitch. Let's see if Claude can actually use it. Hey Claude, what can you tell me about the Stitch tools? And Claude is saying, here's a rundown of the Stitch MCP tools available in this project. Stitch is a UI design and prototyping service that lets you generate, edit, and manage screens and design systems programmatically. What it allows Claude to do is to create new projects, get projects, list the projects, list all the screens, get the screens. Anyway, I think you get it. Claude can interact with Stitch on our behalf. So let's do this. We can actually get Claude to create a new project and generate the designs for us. Hey Claude, I want you to use the Stitch MCP server to create a new project called Claude Fit. I then wanted to create a landing page for a fitness tracker app that uses AI as a coach. So it should contain all sorts of useful exercise routines and calorie tracking tools, whatever we need that has AI integrated into the core of the application. You can just make up any of the copy or details on the page. For the hero image, I want an image of a woman running on the beach with a little AI agent avatar floating just behind her, encouraging her to keep going. Right, so I've just kind of given a brain dump on a project that I think we could create here. And by the way, we are starting off with a blank Next.js project. So if I start up the dev server, this is nothing but a vanilla Next.js project. Right, so Claude says it generated the screen for us. And if we go back to our projects, look at that. We now have this Claude Fit project that Claude created for us. And if we dive into this project, we can see that Claude and Stitch came up with this design system. And here is our application. I mean, it kind of followed my prompt. We've got a picture of a woman running on the beach. I just don't see the little AI assistant behind it, but that's perfectly fine as well. I do think the design looks really cool, especially for a fitness tracking app. And by the way, all of these images are generated with Nano Banana. So it is useful to see a design with actual stock images in it. Quick shout out to Bright Data, the sponsor of today's video. If you've ever tried to use an AI agent to research the web, only to find out that every site is either blocked or returns useless HTML, then this is for you. Here's the thing, building the agent is the easy part. Claude Code, Cursor, N8N. These tools make it quick to spin up an agent that can research, extract, and act on data. But when your agent starts hitting real websites, that's where everything falls apart. Sites block automated requests, JavaScript doesn't render correctly, and CAPTCHAs pop up. Bright Data sits at the core of your AI stack as the new web access layer. The infrastructure your agent uses under the hood so they can reliably browse, search, and pull data from the public web. There are three things that make this work really well when you're building AI-powered apps. First, reliable web access as a tool your agent can call. It hits a page and actually gets the results back every single time. The second is full browser mode for those JavaScript-heavy sites. And third is clean, structured output. Your agent gets back organized JSON or Markdown it can actually work with. Bright Data already powers over 100 million agent interactions daily and is trusted by over 20,000 teams. They've got an API, MCP server, and CLI tool you can plug straight into your apps. They've got a free tier with 5,000 requests per month, so you can start building right away. Check out Bright Data using the link below, and once you sign up, use a promo code to get $20 in free credits. Thanks to Bright Data for sponsoring this video. Cool, so we've got our landing page and our design system, and if we want, we can actually ask Stitch right here to make any edits, or we can ask Claude Code to make the edits for us. So just to test this MCP server, let's get Claude to do it. The design system and the page looks really cool. Please can you also generate a separate page for the pricing information? And just like that, we actually have our pricing page as well. I mean, how cool is this? We don't have to guess what the design is going to look like. We just already know. So cool, we can definitely keep iterating on this, either via Stitch or via Claude Code. But what we really want to get out of this is a design system that we can use within Claude Code and in our project. So here's my workflow. So the first thing I'm going to do is pull down that design system. So what I like to do is in the root of my project, I'll just create a docs folder or references, whatever you want to call it. And within that, I'll call it design system. Then I'll just drop this into the chat and say, all right, I'm a big fan of the design that you came up with. Please can you download the design system and then store the design system in this folder. And let's run this. So Claude will actually call a dedicated tool for pulling down the design system for this project. And that's it. We now have a reusable design system that we can use in our application. So this contains the design system file and tokens. To reinforce this design system in our app, there's two things I like to do. So in your Claude.md file or your agents.md file, simply add a new section like UI design system, with an instruction like, when creating new pages or components, always reference the design system at docs/design system. So there's another thing I like to do as well, just for completeness sake, and that is to create a sub-agent that we can use to review and enforce the design system as well. Because sometimes, and I'm sure that you all have experienced this as well, sometimes Claude or these coding agents will simply ignore the rules in the agents.md file or the Claude.md file. So what I like to do after making a massive change is to kick off this sub-agent just to review the solution and to fix up any UI-related inconsistencies. So I'll just create this agent at project level. Let's get Claude to generate it. I'm going to pull in this design system folder and just say, please create a UI expert agent that is responsible for reviewing the UI design in our application and enforcing the design system. When asked to just perform a review, this agent should just return a report with its findings. But if this agent is asked to enforce the design system, then it can go ahead and just refactor the code itself. Just something like that, nothing too complex. We want this agent to be able to edit code, so I'll just select all of the tools. Let's select Opus as the model, and for the color, I'll just go with green. And we'll create this at project level. Right, now we have our design system. We've given our agents instructions for following the design system, and we now have this UI design review sub-agent to help us enforce the design system. Cool. Now, this design system includes certain components and fonts that we want to use throughout our application. So phase 2 of this is simply to pull in this design system again, and we can say something like, please go ahead and implement this design system, like install the fonts and the dependencies, create reusable components, update the CSS, and any other tasks related to the design system. So let's send this. And now based on this design system, Claude is going to install any dependencies and the fonts that we need. It's going to update our global styles and create reusable components. If you are using a component library like shadcn, it will simply install those shadcn components and just change the Tailwind and shadcn styling accordingly. Right, cool. So Claude just implemented the design system in this application, which means it updated the globals.css file and it made some changes to the layout file as well. In fact, if we just have a quick look at these changes, it changed the font based on our design system, and the entire globals.css file was changed as well, where it removed all of the default colors, and now it's using all the colors from our design system. Now, of course, if we have a look at our app, it doesn't look like much because we still only have the Next.js boilerplate page. So the next thing we want to do is to now recreate these pages using Claude Code in our project. Now, there are a few ways that we can go about doing this. So what we can do is click on a page or several pages, hover over these three dots, and now we can either just export this file as HTML, or we can click on View Code. Either way will work. And this will give us this raw HTML of this page. So we can actually just copy this code, and we could say something like, please replace the Next.js boilerplate homepage with the actual landing page for our app. And now we can just paste in that HTML that we just copied. But I'm going to show you a better way to do this. But before I do that, I just want to show you something. So I can just create a new file called index.html, like this. It's pasted in that HTML code. And if I open this file in the browser, you'll notice it's the exact same design from Stitch. The only difference is it's an actual working HTML website now, but everything works. So all these little animations work. So that's one way, just to kind of pull down the HTML and play with it yourself in the browser. But what we'll do instead is give that HTML to the agent. But we actually don't have to copy the HTML ourselves at all. We can ask Claude Code to do all of that for us. So I'm going to say, please recreate all of the pages from Stitch in this project. So you can simply overwrite the Next.js landing page with the actual landing page from Stitch. Now, before I press enter, here's a really important tip. I noticed that if I just send an instruction like this, Claude Code might actually just download the screenshot of the page and then manually try to replicate that behavior, which is not correct. Here's a better solution. We can get Claude Code to download the HTML for each of those pages, which will give it a lot more metadata in terms of animations and the positioning of elements, etc. So we can just add something like, please use the Stitch tools to download the HTML for each page, which will give you important context for styling, layouts, animations, and more. Trust me, this is such a cool little tip, and it makes a massive difference. So first, Claude retrieved the details for each of these screens. And now it's saying I've got the screen details, so let me download the HTML for both pages. As we can see here, Claude actually just downloaded the HTML for these two pages, and now it's creating the actual Next.js pages from this HTML. Claude just created those pages. It actually automatically removed those HTML files as well. And if we have a look at our dev server, our app is actually working. And this time it is running in Next.js. So all of these little animations are working, the images are there, and this is a one-to-one copy to what we saw in Stitch. So let's actually go down to the pricing options. It's actually all there. This is so cool. Let's open up the pricing page, which should look something like this. And there we go. I can just maybe zoom out a little bit, but everything is indeed there and it looks brilliant. So this really is the quickest way to iterate on these designs. If you try to implement this design using Claude Code, following the last step that we did, sometimes it will not include the images by default, and you might have gray placeholder boxes where the images should go. Note that this is actually by design, it's not a bug. Typically when doing web development, these designs in the Figma designs, and even in Stitch by the way, these are just placeholder images. When you build your application, you're really supposed to find like stock images or get an AI agent to generate high resolution images for you. But if you just want to use the images in Stitch, you can just explicitly tell Claude Code to download and use the same images from Stitch. So it could look something like this. Please can you download all images used in these pages from Stitch and then store them in the public folder of this app. Then use those images in the app instead. Like Claude is saying, let me download all the images from the Stitch pages. And I can already see in the public folder that we now have this images subfolder. And if we just close this terminal for a second, we can click on these images to see the results. And now these images will be used in our application. So what do you think about integrating tools like Stitch into your agentic coding workflows? Are you going to try these types of tools, or are you simply going to stick to the front-end design skill? And just in case you're interested, I do have a school community called Agentic Labs. I've got all sorts of classrooms on tools like Claude Code, and we also have weekly Q&A sessions where you can ask me anything. And if you want to stay up to date with everything AI related or need assistance with any of these tools, we've got a vibrant community of AI builders who can definitely assist. And it's only $7 per month for the first 1,000 members. After that, you're locked in at $7. Also, if you found this video useful in any way, then please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more content. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.